All right, Brent Porcio, TopVelocity.net, going to do a 3x pitch BioMetrics analysis here of Kaohi downing. Okay, come out of leg lift. You're 80, pretty much 89 here. I like to look at hip positions. Let me get my pen 1 second. But you can see, like, you're not getting, like, you know, that linear. That's the thing we were talking about. You could get a lot more linear in that back hip. Like, right, if I go on tools, you know, getting somewhere. Well, of course, it won't let me do it with the graph on. Now we need to try to get here because you're not a tall guy. If we could get your hips into this position here.
Okay.
Ideal. You know. But when you throw harder, you probably do. You probably get somewhere in between. If we look at, and this is before leg drive, so back leg, it's, and you know, with you can see it's really not, it's a little bit of a drive right there. Let's look at actually first knee bend. We can see what's going on. So you can see you're looking at the trailing leg. It's at 48 degrees, peaks at like a 52, and then not much of an extension because you go from 52 as you land at a 42. So 10 degrees of extension. So there's, I mean, there is a little push. It's gonna, I mean, we looked at your ground force. Remember I said your back leg ground force was good. So, but remember your front leg didn't really peak. So, but then they were very close together. Remember, your drive was going off as you were landing, which you can see here. Your foot's down right here, and your back leg isn't even through. So, peaking more force back leg would more than likely just amplify the force here. So it's like you had a decent force because I think as you come out of your load, you extend to get your body moving. But if it was more extension, you know, or if it was more momentum going more linear and then peaking that force a little later, you probably would have hit more force in your front leg, which you didn't. You weren't hitting a lot of force. So the point is, getting more force here is potentially going to put more force there, and ultimately you're going to have to get more linear and forward and, you know, more forward and down through your hip. So you can see not much extension. Let's go back to the hips. So you stay closed really well. I mean, I think this is obviously low off, but your arm really gets back and loads. If we're looking at abduction or your back leg stays externally rotated, so you're at 17 degrees of external rotation. That's good. But see, your abduction's only at 23 degrees. You know, I want to see your abduction at 45 degrees at that point. That would be down where I was showing you.
Gotcha.
So that's just you're barely abducting that leg, right? Which is just that's why you're not fully extending. You're more rotational, because if you fully extend, you'd be wanting to jump. And then let's take you into front foot. So front foot, let's see the point. Your hips open. Your extension is only 8 degrees. So could be, you know, you don't get lower and more extension out of your leg because your hip extension or your hips are tight. So, you know, I'd like to see 20 at that point. So it's just, once again, you're not maximizing your ranges in your lower half. So it's keeping you more vertical, and then that's going to cause your upper half to be more
rotational. And
you're going to have to overload your joints in your upper body because your lower body isn't maximizing. If we look at pelvis, So we can see your, let's look at hip first. We'll do both actually. So the right's the pelvis. So your pelvis is at this point, let's go before leg drive. Pelvis is tilted to your front side with 7 degrees. It's pretty much neutral there, and that's because your front foot's are reaching. And it's back, it's tipping back 4 degrees. So I mean, that's good. It's up, it's under you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hit front foot right here, it goes way over to that side, which is fine because that's where you want your trunk to go. When it's the other way, I actually get more concerned. And that's because this has some good force on it. Your hip's tipping that way. And it's forward now, 7 degrees, which is fine. And we look at the trunk at this point. The trunk is actually the other way. Your trunk is leaning the other way, which is fine, 15. And it's forward, 1. Okay, it's pretty much neutral. And then as you go to into shoulder rotation, it goes contralateral 26. 25 is borderline. So you're borderline to where if you go any farther, it's too hard on your shoulder. Basically, velocity goes up contralateral, tilting this way till about 25 degrees, and then it stops, and just the torques go up.
Yes.
I don't know how accurate the arm is right now, but your elbow is below your shoulder, which is means you're gonna have more torque in your elbow. It needs to be at shoulder height, which would be somewhere like where the wrist is,
Okay.
if it was level. So it's probably because you're going so far this way, and then your elbow's dropping. So here's the thing: if you had more power, it would want to stay more neutral, because everything's wanting to go to the target. When it starts going that way, is you're starting to rotate and pull. Another reason why your arm drops is because that's what happens as it flies out, right? I like how your front leg is driving. You got a good front leg, and that's what pushes your trunk out really well. Because your forward trunk gets to, I see a pitch releases right there. It gets a 51. That's really good with a good front leg. The last to look at would be your kinematic sequence.
What's Chapman at with that angle with the trunk?
He's like 45. I like here, your trunk is peaking with your glove side, so they're kind of spinning together. So that means your glove side isn't pulling too aggressively. I mean, it's pulling, but not too aggressively. Your hip speeds are at, let's see, about 7, there, I almost had it. 767, and then your trunk speeds are at almost 951, and you're at 89. That's actually good, because those are like average angular velocities. So it just tells me, specifically your trunk at the end, you get a lot of energy from that front leg drive. I think front leg, back leg drive, you're getting a lot of energy. I mean, I would assume when you're throwing harder, it gets even more dynamic here. I wouldn't want to see your glove starting to speed up and just spin you. As far as, and then there is some separation. Remember, I think we looked at that before. So you see right there, there's even some. The moment you land, good separation. And then as your back hip keeps coming through, back hip gets through right there. It's a little late, your hip. But I'm thinking as you throw harder, your hip gets through a little bit faster. And your separation gets better. So, I mean, I like the separation. I don't think you're loading your arm that far back, but if you are, then you just need to always say, if you can increase your hip to shoulder separation here. So, say right here, shoulder line was still closed, then your arm wouldn't be trying to stay so far back in socket, right? If I turn your shoulders more closed, your arm would be not so loaded back into horizontal abduction. So more separation would keep your arm healthier as you went through rotation, which I don't see think maybe I do see a little drag. Yeah, I see a little drag like right there, but I don't know how accurate that is with everything. This thing's totally jumping right now. Yeah, see there's a little drag there. I just don't know how accurate that is. Feels good. You know, look at it. I mean, I think you just need to get more linear, which is letting your hips fall forward and down more to get that force vector down more, get more abduction in the hip, and hold everything you're doing. You're holding torsion well, external rotation. You're staying neutral with your trunk. You're staying scap loaded. That's why you're separating, and then just get more power, more extension with the lower center of gravity. That should enhance up the shoulder separation, and that should carry your trunk forward a little bit earlier, not waiting for your front leg to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
And then your front leg would just be some icing on the cake at that point.